Greetings, Internet Sojourners. This is the MMORPG, and today we're going to talk about why developers should allow dead MMORPGs to be preserved. The MMORPG genre has seen countless titles come and go throughout the years. Some endure through sheer force of will by developers like Retail EverQuest that's managed to crank out yearly expansions with a team of some 4 people. Some are in a permanent maintenance mode, and in some rare cases, fan projects have managed to keep a handful alive for players to return to. But what about those MMORPGs that have shut down, likely forever? In these cases, the developers have turned off the servers and refused to release the source code for any eager fans to attempt to recreate the experience. This is mainly due to legal and business reasons. Developers and publishers tend to keep a close hold on their intellectual property. Now, I'm not an expert on copyright law, so I won't elaborate on this any further so I don't spread false information. However, the likelihood of these dead MMOs ever seeing the light of day seems slim to none. Unlike older software titles that exist in physical copies, these MMORPGs really cannot be played in their original state anymore. Many times the physical disks only carry limited amounts of data, generally relegated to large files and assets to simply run the game itself. For example, all of the player or monster models may be stored on the disk, but the information of where the monsters spawn or what kind of loot they drop was stored on the server. If fans are unable to capture this data prior to the MMO shutting down, it's lost forever. Furthermore, even accessing the files that do remain typically requires some degree of technical know-how to even trick the game into running without there being an active server to connect to. This is very different from old single-player games that are still just as playable today as they were the day they released. Right now, I can play through virtually the entire Super Nintendo library just as I could in the 1990s, but I can't log in and experience defunct MMORPGs such as WildStar or EverQuest Online Adventures. This puts MMORPGs in a very unique situation when it comes to digital media preservation. Preserving digital media is actually a very important cause. Our society is shaped by the media we consume, and in today's world we consume vast amounts of digital media daily. In the grand scheme of human history, we truly are at the dawn of the digital age. By preserving digital media, we are allowing future generations to peer into the past to see how this media affected our society's growth and values. Just as we humans today study the relics of ancient civilizations, future anthropologists will seek to understand how the digital era began. We have an opportunity to gift this information to knowledge seekers in future generations. Imagine how much more we would understand if we had accurate information of how human civilization evolved when we abandoned our nomadic ways and first began to form small societies. To relate this back to MMORPGs, part of me thinks that the MMO will only be a minor footnote in the digital history books. But would they be? Consider the circumstances when MMOs arose. Online interactions were limited to Usenet groups, forums, online chat rooms, and messenger programs. There was no Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, or TikTok. This is part of the reason why MMOs became so popular at the time. They gave people a medium by which to interact with each other outside of small chat groups and two-way messaging. We crafted fully animated three-dimensional virtual worlds and put them online for millions of people to experience. The MMO paved the way for more modern gaming experiences, and some of the design choices are still seen in landmark games today. I think MMOs are in a bit of a slump right now. But just as EverQuest showed us, we're really just in a holding pattern. We're waiting for another large leap in technology to come around, and I wholeheartedly believe we'll see another massive boom in their success. Imagine the scope and scale of a full virtual reality MMO that mirrors real life. I think this is a very real scenario that can play out, and can continue to play out, and having solidly preserved MMORPGs will allow future generations to study the progression, all the way from text-based worlds to the distant future where we may honestly simulate an entire universe. It's for these reasons that I think it's important to preserve digital media, especially MMORPGs. Ethically, I think developers should feel an obligation to release the source code of a defunct game. That way fans can study and recreate it at their own leisure, and it comes at no cost to the developer. I think some consideration should be given to expansions as well. We all know that World of Warcraft plays very differently at almost every stage based on which expansion it's in. I think effort should be made to capture the data between each expansion so it can be properly restored later. Throughout much of these games' lives, patches are just applied one on top of the next, and the original code is not always preserved. Perhaps with how popular progression servers have become in recent years, we'll see more effort given to this. Developers should recognize that certain expansion eras are more popular than others. If they keep the data intact, they can restore it at some later date during a progression server timeline, or just make a server for that specific expansion. All that to say, it's time to speak up more about this. I think digital media preservation benefits the player and the publisher alike. I won't go so far as to demand this as a basic human right, but come on, NCSoft. Just let me play WildStar again. Please. All jokes aside, this is the MMORPG, and I want to thank you for your viewership. I also want to thank EQOA Nostalgia for the idea for this video. Subscribe if you enjoy introspective MMO commentary, gameplay from classic MMOs, or new content around projects in development such as Niche World Cults, Monsters, and Memories.